The buzzing of chatter, the clinking of wine glasses, and the soft jazz music filling Le Chateau, the fanciest restaurant in Willow Grove, made for a lively evening. Known for its exclusivity and refined elegance, Le Chateau was owned by William Hartman, a man with a reputation for valuing status above all else. He liked to call it a place for refined company, a subtle code understood by locals that meant he only wanted certain types of patrons. Mr. Hartman prided himself on curating a particular environment, though few knew the real depth of his prejudice. So, when a well-dressed black couple walked through the doors one Friday night, his thinly veiled contempt reared its ugly head. The couple, Benjamin and Layla Carter, walked in with an air of sophistication. Layla wore a sleek, elegant dress, and Benjamin had on a custom-tailored suit. They looked around, taking in the restaurant's beauty, feeling a sense of excitement as they anticipated a lovely evening. But Mr. Hartman's gaze fixed on them with disapproval. To him, they didn't belong at Le Chateau. As Benjamin and Layla approached the hostess stand, Mr. Hartman swooped in before she could even greet them. "I'm sorry, but we're fully booked tonight," he said sharply, barely glancing at them. Benjamin, taken aback, looked around at the restaurant. Numerous tables were empty, and a few other patrons looked on, sensing something amiss. "Are you sure?" Layla asked politely. "We see several tables open." Hartman's face tightened. "Our reservations are prioritized for regular patrons. I'm sure you understand." Realizing they were being dismissed, Benjamin and Layla glanced at each other, a silent understanding passing between them. They had faced situations like this before, but it never got easier. Without causing a scene, they simply nodded and walked out, leaving the restaurant in an uncomfortable silence. But Mr. Hartman had no idea just who he had turned away. That evening, Benjamin and Layla decided to share their experience on social media. They kept the tone dignified, detailing the evening with class, but leaving no doubt about the discrimination they had faced. Benjamin added a final, thoughtful message. When people choose to judge based on appearances, they miss out on understanding others. Change doesn't come from silence. The post went viral within hours. Comments poured in from across the globe, denouncing the actions of Le Chateau and calling out Mr. Hartman's prejudice. Among those who shared it were prominent influencers, business leaders, and even a few celebrities. But the biggest bombshell came the next day. Benjamin and Layla Carter, it turned out, were not only respected figures in the tech and entertainment industries, but were also significant investors in various businesses, including hospitality. Local news stations quickly picked up the story, and soon Le Chateau was at the center of a media storm. When Mr. Hartman opened his phone the next morning, he was flooded with notifications. Confused, he opened one of the messages which linked to Benjamin and Layla's post. His eyes widened as he read, recognizing their names. He immediately searched their profiles online, and his stomach dropped as he realized who they were. Benjamin was a tech entrepreneur, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, and Layla was a celebrated actress and philanthropist. Both had substantial influence, and now they were exposing Le Chateau for its discriminatory practices. Realizing the gravity of his mistake, Hartman felt a wave of panic. The couple he had dismissed was not only influential, but was also well-loved and respected by millions. And that wasn't all. As he continued researching, he discovered another shocking detail. Benjamin was a board member of a restaurant supply company, one of the largest in the state. Hartman ate Tarot 28, I realized with a sinking feeling that his restaurant's main supplier could be affected. Benjamin and Layla's connections ran deeper than he had thought, and now his livelihood was at stake. Over the next few days, the fallout intensified. Negative reviews flooded Le Chateau's online profiles, and bookings plummeted. The restaurant's regular patrons began canceling reservations, not wanting to be associated with such a scandal. To make matters worse, local news stations covered the story extensively, further damaging the restaurant's reputation. But the real blow came when his primary supplier canceled their contract, citing ethical concerns. Hartman scrambled, trying to find other suppliers, but the damage was done. No reputable company wanted to be associated with him. His restaurant staff began to feel the effects too. Waiters, chefs, and kitchen staff seeing their shifts cut due to lack of customers. resented Hartman for his actions. To them, he was the reason their jobs were now at risk. Desperate to save his business, Hartman tried to reach out to Benjamin and Layla, hoping for a chance to apologize and make things right. But they didn't respond. Determined, he decided to take his apology to the public. A week later, Hartman organized a press conference, hoping to salvage his reputation. With cameras rolling, he offered a heartfelt apology, acknowledging his wrongdoing and vowing to do better. He explained that he would implement anti-discrimination training for his staff and promised to support local initiatives for diversity. Le Chateau will be a place of inclusivity moving forward, he said, his voice shaky. I am deeply sorry for the harm I've caused, and I am committed to making things right. But the apology, although public, lacked sincerity in the eyes of many. The crowd and media members present sensed it was more about saving his business than a true change of heart. Comments on social media reflected this sentiment. A real apology comes with action, not just words. However, his apology did manage to get a response, just not the one he expected. A day after his public apology, Hartman received an email. It was from Benjamin Carter. The message was brief but direct. Benjamin offered a proposition. He would consider publicly accepting Hartman's apology in one condition. Hartman would need to transfer ownership of Le Chateau to a local nonprofit focused on providing career training for minorities. Hartman would also have to attend monthly workshops on inclusivity hosted by that very nonprofit for at least a year. The terms were strict, almost humiliating, but they were non-negotiable. If Hartman truly wanted forgiveness and redemption, he would have to make a real sacrifice. Hartman was horrified at the idea of giving up his beloved restaurant. Le Chateau was his life's work, the result of decades of hard labor and dedication. But the reality was undeniable. Without a drastic move, he would lose everything anyway. After hours of soul-searching, he reluctantly agreed to Benjamin's terms. He signed over ownership of Le Chateau and prepared himself for the journey ahead. In the weeks that followed, the transition took place. The nonprofit took over operations at Le Chateau, transforming it into a new kind of establishment. The restaurant now had a mission: to serve as a training ground for aspiring chefs and hospitality staff from underrepresented backgrounds. As for Hartman, he attended every required workshop, where he was forced to confront the biases he had clung to all his life. The experience was uncomfortable, even painful, as he heard personal stories from people who had faced discrimination. Each session chipped away at his ignorance, revealing a side of humanity he had long ignored. Over time, he began to see things differently. The people he once viewed with prejudice and suspicion were now his peers, colleagues, and even friends. Through this experience, he began to understand the true weight of his actions. He was learning that redemption wasn't about saving facade, it was about becoming a better person. Months later, Le Chateau had transformed into something far more meaningful than it had ever been. Under the nonprofit's leadership, it became a celebrated establishment known for its mission of inclusivity and growth. The community rallied around it, and it thrived with support from patrons who valued its new purpose. Hartman, though no longer the owner, continued working with the nonprofit, volunteering as a mentor for those training in hospitality. The process humbled him, but he found purpose in supporting others and sharing the hard-earned lessons he had learned. As for Benjamin and Layla Carter, they watched from a distance, quietly proud of the impact their experience had created. They knew they had left a legacy that went beyond personal justice. It was a catalyst for change in the community. The story of Le Chateau and its transformation spread, becoming a beacon of what could happen when people confront their prejudices and choose a path of redemption. It became a lesson that sometimes the hardest journey is one that leads to a better self, and true change often comes at the cost of personal pride. And so, Le Chateau stood as a reminder for all who entered, a place once marred by prejudice, reborn as a symbol of unity, humility, and the power of redemption.